For many years, especially during the 70s and 80s, the beautiful Mediterranean island of Corsica was ravaged by bombs, guns, and political unrest. Corsican nationalists sought for independence or at least greater autonomy from the French centralized government, and some took to very desperate measures, unrelentingly creating a terrorist organization, the Fronte di Liberazione Nazionale Corsu, or National Liberation Front of Corsica, in short, the FLNC. This sad turn of events was one long in the making. The Corsicans are their own ethnic Romance people with their own cultural heritage and language. Before becoming a part of France, Corsica was a part of the Republic of Genoa. After a first failed revolution in the 1730s, which aimed to create an independent Corsica, Pascal Paoli, often praised to be the father of the Corsican nation, succeeded in a second attempt, calling out the Corsican Republic in 1755. He managed to drive most Genoese troops off the island. The Corsican Republic, although unrecognized, existed from 1755 to 1769, and its constitution was a major leap forward, implementing modern ideas like women's suffrage. Unable to reconquer Corsica, the Genoese sold their territorial claims of the island to the Kingdom of France in 1767. The same year, the French invaded the island and finally crushed the forces of the Corsican Republic in 1769. And then in 1770, Corsica was formally incorporated into France. As we can see, Corsican nationalism and a sense of self-determination among the Corsicans isn't an invention of the 20th century. The modern conflict was triggered by the arrival of the so-called Pieds Noirs, French settlers who formerly lived in French Algeria, who then migrated to Corsica. The tipping point into an armed conflict came in 1975 with the drama of Valeria, in which a group of Corsican nationalists, armed with guns and rifles, occupied a wine distillery owned by a French company. Soon, heavily armed police came to the scene, resulting in a bloody shootout, which left 2 policemen dead and 2 militants wounded. With the drama of Valeria, violent Corsican nationalism was reborn, and 1 year later, with the birth of the FLNC, it culminated into a low-intensity guerrilla war, similar to the Troubles in Northern Ireland or the ETA conflict in the Basque Country. In its original manifesto, the FLNC stated its goals as such: the recognition of the national right of the Corsican people, the removal of all instruments of French colonialism, including the French army and colonists, the setting up of a popular democratic government which would express the will and the needs of the Corsican people, the confiscation of colonial estates, agrarian reforms to fulfill the aspiration of farmers, workers, and intellectuals and rid the country of all forms of exploitation. And last but not least, the right of self-determination of the Corsican people. The FLNC's main tactic revolved around bombing property of the French government, of French companies, and of non-Corsicans, especially of Pieds Noirs. The FLNC also resorted to bloodshed. On August 5, 1987, members of the FLNC fired at French military police with machine guns, killing the officer Guy Asnar. In another instance, in June 1993, ex-combatant Robert Sozzi, formerly a member of the FLNC splinter group Canal Historique, was murdered by his former comrades, most likely to keep him silent. Although it was very rare, in some instances, the FLNC also carried out attacks on the French mainland. In 2003, the FLNC's arm of violence reached to the French city of Nice, where the militants injured 16 people in 2 separate bomb attacks. The most prominent FLNC attack took place on Corsica. It was the murder of Claude Erignac, which deeply scarred the people's support for the FLNC. On the 6th of February 1998, the French prefect for Corsica, Claude Erignac, who was deemed to be the French government's most important man on the island, was shot dead with 3 bullets by 2 gunmen. The murder sparked a lot of protest and debate, and support for independence fell to just 6%, an all-time low. After its murder, the FLNC heavily slowed down its armed campaign and lost most of its popular support. Their organization became loose and morale was very. 2014 and 2016, The two biggest still existing FLNC factions announced an end to their armed struggle, which was seen as a great relief by the people of Corsica, even by Corsican nationalists. However, in 2019, fears of a violence culminating with Macron's visit to the island, on April 4th, 2 villas were bombed and an additional 2 bombs were found in front of government buildings in Bastia. At the end of September 2019, a group of Corsican nationalists, one of which armed with a rifle, announced the revival of the FLNC in a frightening video message. The masked group threatened to attack property of foreign investors and demanded that selling land to non-Corsicans should be prohibited. Then, just one day before Christmas 2019, a bomb once again exploded on the island of Corsica, sparkling fears of a violent year of 2020. One has to realize that the now once again active group appears to be much smaller than the original terrorist organization. They seemingly lack equipment, manpower, and most importantly, popular support.